I started meditating about 30 years ago. I learned my first meditation techniques from my first martial arts teacher. So the single-pointed mind meditation technique is a very powerful concentration technique for meditation. And it involves concentrating on particular chakras. And the chakras are energy centers in our energy body. Not only do you develop concentration and the ability to hold your mind still, but once you become adept at this particular meditation technique on the chakras, you can raise the Kundalini energy. And the Kundalini energy is a very powerful energy of transformation. Live and direct, back again with day 24 of the 30 days to raise your frequency. And just waiting for a few people to get on. What we'll be doing is a guided meditation here momentarily. The 30 days to raise your frequency is a 30-day meditation challenge that I do here in the group periodically. And these 30-day meditation challenges are an effort to inspire and motivate you to meditate every day, which can be one of the most difficult things for a lot of new meditators. Oftentimes, we start out with a good wave of motivation when we get interested in a new subject. And then, like most of us out there, we notice that this wave of motivation for this new subject, be it meditation or anything, tends to wane after a certain time period. So how do we keep the motivation going? How do we keep that inspiration up? So we'll talk a little bit about that today. We'll also go over the meditation technique that I'll be sharing with you momentarily. And this is a meditation technique that I've been doing for a number of years. It's quite effective at overcoming the mental chatter, which is another issue that a lot of newcomers to meditation struggle with. Is how do I get over this mental chatter? I just can't seem to stop my mind from talking. And so the single-pointed mind meditation is a concentration exercise that will strengthen your ability to concentrate on one point, which will help you overcome this mental activity that is one of the greatest obstacles to peace, one of the greatest obstacles to experiencing life directly, to experiencing beyond the limitations, is to overcome this mental activity that's constantly, incessantly getting in the way. So we're going to talk about that today. So we'll just wait for a few more folks to get on. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. So we are rocking and rolling here on day 24 already. My, how time flies. And the good news is that we'll be continuing the journey. We'll be continuing the party in a more exclusive setting, we shall say. I'll be launching my private group training, which will be a month-to-month subscription-based membership. And it'll be called Concentration to Consciousness. For those of you who feel that this particular technique will be focusing pretty much exclusively on the single-pointed mind techniques, and especially the 5 steps to stillness technique that I will be sharing with you, that I've been sharing with you in the group here ever since the beginning. And of course, this particular private group training, it'll be ongoing. I'm going to call it Concentration to Consciousness. And the reason why I call it Concentration to Consciousness is because too many times... What's up, Ashley? Glad to have you on, my friend. All right. Yeah. You know, another day in paradise. And what does it really mean, concentration to consciousness? There's many ways that you could say this. But oftentimes in meditation, there's not much emphasis on where are we going with this meditation? Where is it taking us? And so I like to introduce a very practical, down-to-earth, realistic approach, cutting out a lot of the BS that you see. So we'll be talking about that today a little bit more in depth. I also am I'm a realist, and I've been meditating for about 30 years. I started meditation when I was 15 years old. I'm 46 now, and what meditation has brought me is a way to stay grounded. It's a way and a method, a technique to stay in touch with the deeper part of myself. So meditation is a method. The word meditation is often misconstrued. We talk about meditation practice as so many varied meanings to meditation practice. There's so many different types of meditation practice. The word meditation is actually a translation for a state of being that is beyond thought. So the reason why I avoid using the word meditation often is because in the beginning, concentration is a more tangible, understandable, practical term that we can all relate to. We all know what concentration is. When we focus on something, when we read a book, when we're listening to someone, we're giving our undivided attention. Now, undivided attention is concentration. It is a concentrating effort. Now, when you get into the higher stages of meditation practice, there's absolutely no effort, because you have moved beyond an effort-producing activity. You have moved beyond concentration. Traditionally, meditation is taught when a meditation master gathers together students. And when you sit with a meditation master, there's not a lot of verbal instruction. It is understood that if you are a meditator, if you're someone interested in meditation, if you're on the path to self-discovery, the path to enlightenment, transcending, overcoming the limitations, and it is understood that you have a certain degree of sensitivity already, that you already have kind of looked around at life and seen that there's not necessarily much real fulfillment in the material world. There's not really a lot of happiness in the material world. There's a lot of consumption. There's a lot of sensorial gratification. Gratifying the senses, the eyes, the ears, the taste buds. But there's not a lot of true, lasting happiness that takes place in the material world, because we all see and we all know the material world, meaning the world of the body, also what's called the 3D world, that this is a temporary condition, that our bodies are not a permanent vehicle. And, we kind of come to an awakening at a certain point in our lives, and we see this. We see that life is temporary. And this is also known as impermanence. So there's a lesson to be known about impermanence. Now, one mistake that a lot of new people to meditation make is to think of the body, though, as something separate from their being. The body is part of your being. I consider that we are multidimensional beings. And then when we begin our meditation practice, we can experience this. Yes, we have a body. We also have emotions. The emotional body, also known as the energy body, is another body. Just as real, if not more real, than the physical body. In fact, it's probably more real. Just because we're not familiar with something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So it's good to be humble. It's good to be to have what's called Zen mind, beginner's mind, when we enter into a new subject, something like meditation, because if we come to it with preconceptions of how it's going to be, of what I'm going to be taught, what meditation is going to be like. We have all these preconceptions, we have all these ideas, and a lot of times we're going to be real enthusiastic. We're going to look for something that matches our preconceptions, our notions, our ideas of what something is. And oftentimes we don't learn much when we come into some subject, when we're new, when we think we know what it's all about. So it's always good to have a humble beginner's mindset. And so the fact that we are multidimensional and we have many, many dimensions is quite unknown in a lot of cultures. It's quite just, not very well known. And so when you come into the world of meditation, there's a lot of different teachings. There's a lot of different practitioners. There's a lot of different teachers, a lot of different guides. So my personal approach is one of total body, including the physical, emotional, and mental. These three particular dimensions are the ones most familiar to us. We know the physical body. We know its limitations. We know its strengths. We know its weaknesses. We know how to strengthen it. We know how to indulge it. We know how to make it healthy. Now, do we always make the right choices? Of course not. And I'm not one to use the cliche or excuse that we're only human. I don't even know what that means. It's just, oftentimes we just recycle and regurgitate the same old garbage that we hear. If I was to say we're only human, well, doesn't that immediately put limitation upon the situation? Who's to say what we are? If we stop defining things, if we stop labeling things, then we'll stop judging things. And now, I'm not saying that judgment is good or bad, because obviously there's a certain degree of discernment that we need to make when it comes to our time, when it comes to our energy, when it comes to what we focus on. It's absolutely important to discern what is best for us, what is appropriate for us, what is for our highest good. Otherwise, we make poor choices. And those poor choices are, lead us down a path that will be not a very fruitful life. So, but you live and learn, Everyone learns from poor choices sometimes. Sometimes we have to make a choice and we just simply don't have enough information, so we go with our intuition, we go with our gut, or we go with the limited information that we're afforded and we make a choice. And then we might go down that path for a little while and realize this is not quite for me. And it's important to then make that decision to go to another path, or go back and go to the path that you decided not to go on originally. So I like to approach the entire process of meditation as one. What do I mean by that? We can look at ourselves as multidimensional, or we can look at ourselves as whole. If we focus on the whole, including the physical, including the emotional, and including the mental, then we're going to be much more complete. Our attention will be much more complete, given to the practice. So our attention given to the practice, if we only focus on the mind, on the mental aspect, and we neglect the body, we neglect the emotions, well, that's only 1/3 of the main manifested components of our being. Everybody knows we got a body. Well, there's also an emotional body. Everyone has feelings. Some people feel more. Some people are a little more not naturally inclined to feel a whole lot. Some people are very mental. They're very intellectual. Now, of course, I have an astrology background, so for me, astrology answers a lot of the reasons why we have these predilections, why we have these tendencies to be very mental, intellectual, tendencies to be very emotional, tendencies to be very grounded in the physical, or not. And so, believe it or not, astrology can answer a lot of these questions. So I find it a practical pursuit to understand where we're coming from. Now, is astrology the be-all, end-all of your existence? Of course not. It's only one slice of the pie. But it's an important one to understand, because understanding yourself, understanding your tendencies. Are you an intellectual person? Are you an emotional person? Are you a physical person? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What is your tendencies? This is an important thing to know, because knowing our tendencies, knowing ourself is prime. It's very important. Know thyself is one of the ancient adages that will clue you into a good starting point. So if you don't know who you are, first, the decisions you make aren't going to be ones that will make you happy. So oftentimes we just follow along. We just follow along with what someone tells us, with what our parents tell us, what our culture tells us is the right thing to do, what our schools tell us, work, friends, whatever. We're peer pressured into making decisions that may not necessarily be right for us. And this is evident in a lot of cultures in the world. Cultures where, now there may or may not be wisdom to this, but cultures where, of course, being a Westerner, being an American, whatever you have to say about that, we tend to love our freedom, right? Whatever you want to argue about that, whether freedom is a real concept or whatever. But, we love the illusion of freedom, let's put it that way, the idea of freedom. But most countries necessarily in the world don't have that. They're grown up, they're groomed, their life partner is already picked, the arranged marriage, their career is already picked by their parents. They don't have a lot of say. Now, whether that life partner or career is a good decision, it may or may not be. It very well may be a great career path to become a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, or whatever, career someone has chosen for you. But will it ultimately fulfill you? Will it ultimately make you happy? Now, I'm not one to sit here and say that we shouldn't have a good career. I'm a big believer in making sure that we do have a good career in life. And if you can do something that makes you happy, that fulfills you, well, even better. So taking care of the body, working out, making sure that you're strong, making sure that you're healthy, eating the right foods, getting enough sleep. Obviously, these are very important things. And if we neglect the body and only focus on the mind, well, we're going to eventually hit a limit. We're going to hit the wall, and we're going to have a difficult time. So I'm a big believer in focusing on the three main aspects. This is why in martial arts, for example, we focus on mind, body, and spirit. I like to say mind, body, and emotions. It tends to make more sense. Or mind, body, and energy. When I talk about emotions, when I talk about energy, I'm referring to another body. This is also referred to as the energy body, subtle physical body, also called the astral body. Because this body is literally in another dimension. It's in a dimension that we access, that we perceive through feeling. And this is why I stress the art of feeling. I did a podcast on this a while ago. Perhaps I'll post a link again in the group about the art of feeling. It's a lost art. We've forgotten how to feel on an energetic level. We've forgotten how to feel energy. And it's not necessarily that we've forgotten. It's just that we've been conditioned to not focus on it. We've just been conditioned to only focus on the physical. Most of us are born into a life. Most of us are born into a world. Most of us are born into a culture that isn't focused on spirituality, that isn't focused on reality. We're not taught that we're multidimensional beings. This is sometimes information that we have to seek out for ourselves. We're brought into a culture, we're brought into a society, for the most part, that wants you to fit in, that grooms you for becoming a productive member of that particular society. You know, you've got a language, you've got a culture, you've got a country that you believe in. There's all these ideas. There's all these concepts. And oftentimes, these are the limiting factors that keep us in a perceptual box. Now, I don't know about you, but as someone who's interested in meditation, I want to know what's beyond the box. I've never been comfortable in the box, and I first wanted to get out of the box when I started martial arts practice, and then when I started meditation practice, and then realizing that there is a whole nother world out there, that there's many worlds out there, has always been the focus for meditation, to transcend this particular dimension and to know beyond the body who and what we are. Now, this is just one aspect. Will that necessarily make you happy? Not necessarily. Knowledge and experience doesn't necessarily make us happy. So let me pause for a moment and check out. Ashley writes, I need more support and encouragement for eating better. I've tried, but I can't keep up long term, and I find it boring. No problem, brother. That's absolutely something that I touch on in my private coaching program. I'm a big believer in diet, having a particular diet. This is why focusing on what we eat is a key and crucial component to success in our meditation practice. Why? Because the body can become a great obstacle. Now, obviously, there are ways, if your concentration ability is strong enough, you can move beyond any type of distractions. But in the beginning, again, everything reflects the whole. What we do here is what we'll do here. And this is why I'm a big believer in martial arts. My teacher was a big believer in martial arts. Martial arts is a total body experience. By total body, I mean mind. Your mind, your mental body, is another body. It's a body where the body can be out of shape, or it can be extremely healthy. What do we feed our mind? What do we produce? Our speech is connected to our minds. The ability to not get involved with negative thoughts. The ability to avoid negative judgments of people. To understand. Compassion. These are mental, compassion is of the heart, but it's also of the mind. Because how many times are we struggling with our judgments and our thoughts of a person or a situation? No matter what that person did to me, there's this battle, there's this struggle. Do I understand why? Do I understand where they're coming from? Or am I just angry because they did it to me? A lot of that is just ego. A lot of that is just focus on the self. So, in terms of diet, it's no different. Everything is about schedule. Everything is about routine. And obviously everything is about goals. What are your goals? We first need to determine what are your goals. What are your goals for meditation? What are your goals for physical exercise? What are your goals for your diet in terms of results that you want to achieve? Now, the goals may differ for each individual at different stages, and your goals will and should absolutely evolve as you evolve. So in the beginning, your goal might be something tangible, something attainable. Let's say it's a weight loss goal. Well, if you set yourself up for, I want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, and you've never done a weight loss program, that might sound good, but it might be a little bit lofty. Let's just focus on losing 10 pounds first, within the first 2 months. And then once you get good at that, you'll see results. You'll get motivation. So it's the same kind of thing with meditation. Oh, I'm new to meditation. I want to do the best job I can do. Great. That's a great attitude. I want to sit down for an hour twice a day. Okay, but you're new to meditation? I don't necessarily recommend that. Because oftentimes, people that are new to meditation, they're very motivated, they're very gung-ho, and that's a great attitude to have. But it's good to start with basics. It's good to start with baby steps. Just like in martial arts training. If I was to take a student who's never done any martial arts or physical training and teach them the most advanced form that I know, well, that wouldn't serve the student, would it? No, because they don't have the prerequisite strength. They don't have the stance. They don't have the stances developed. They don't even know how to punch properly or kick. And their flexibility might not be there yet. Their strength, their power, their stamina. So we have to work on the basics and the fundamentals first. Meditation is no different. And this is why concentration to consciousness allows for a complete spectrum of training. To neglect the concentration practice is a big mistake as far as I'm concerned. Because what occurs in a new meditator most often is that they sit down and we're told what? Of course, you're told, just focus on your breath. Okay, let me do that. Focus on my breath. Then I start to think thoughts. No, bring back to my breath. Okay, every time I do that, now what is focusing on your breath doing? Well, it is doing some good in that it gives you a target to concentrate on, the breath. So you could use focusing on your breath as a single-pointed mind meditation. Or you could focus on a chakra. Now, why I recommend focusing on the chakra over focusing on the breath, even for a beginner, is because when you focus on the chakras, you're developing and strengthening and making healthy and tuning into your energy body. One of the most vital components to meditation as far as I'm concerned. Your energy body, your emotional body, your astral body, your subtle physical body, this is where the chakras are located. If we don't focus on the chakras, they're not just going to develop on themselves. What you focus on is where your energy will go to. If I focus on my bicep and I keep doing a bicep curl, well, that bicep will grow. It'll get stronger and I can lift more weight. Likewise, when I focus on my heart chakra, it'll grow, it'll get stronger. I will awaken it and I'll be able to use it. Meaning, what is the function of a heart chakra, for example? Well, to give and receive love, to transmit love. It's a pretty important thing, especially in a world like this that needs as much love as it can get. And as the people around you need as much love as they can get. So, Ashley says, it's very beneficial having things like carrots and hummus, nuts and seeds like snacks every day, or fish and veggie most day. It gets boring. Okay. My goal for my diet is to lose weight, and I quit drinking over a year ago for personal reasons, and that didn't work. Well, don't worry, brother. I can help you. I'm an expert in weight loss. Proof is in the pudding. Thank you. Now, I don't say that to brag, but, I believe, hey, if I'm saying I can help you, you should ask, well, what's your background? What is your expertise? Where's the proof that you can help me? And this is why I come on here every day and meditate with you guys. So you can see that I'm not just talking a good talk, but I'm also walking the walk. Yes, I've been meditating for 30 years. Have I been meditating every single day for those 30 years? No. Just like anyone, I go through periods of motivation and periods of not being so motivated. But since I started this group over 3 years ago, my meditation practice has been way more consistent. It was very consistent in various periods of time over my life. And obviously, just like anything in life, when you focus on something for a short period of time, you can get good at it. Then when you stop doing it, you take a couple steps back. But after just a few weeks of getting back into it, you pick up right where you left off. It's like muscle memory. Muscle memory is a concept in bodybuilding that we talk about, where if you develop a certain degree of muscularity and you take time off, well, when you get back, obviously you're going to lose some of that muscle during your time off. But when you come back to the training, you will quickly regain that same level of muscularity that you had months before. It's something called muscle memory. And this is part of your nervous system that can actually have a certain degree of memory. So very similar in meditation. When we practice, this is why people go on intensives. This is why people go on retreats. You know, when you go on a retreat, you know for a fact that this is something that you've never done before, number one. This is something that's going to push you to your limits and hopefully overcome your limitations. But it's also something that you're probably not going to do for the rest of your life. You're not going to be on retreat for the rest of your life. You're not going to meditate all day for the rest of your life. But having that experience is enough to give you a guidepost, an experience that you know that you've been through that changed you forever. And then you come back to your training and then you can maintain a certain level, okay? And then there's a certain time where you feel like you need to push past that plateau, and then we move to the next level, etc., etc. So why even meditate? Why even bother? You know, it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. Some of us have had experiences in life that have shown us more. We've been beyond the veil. We've taken a trip, a journey, and we've seen, for lack of a better cliche, the promised land, if you will. What is the promised land? The promised land is moving beyond the self, moving beyond the ego, moving beyond the mental chatter, not being caught up in judgment, being in a state of love, in resonance. It's a beautiful thing. And it can be done. It can be done. But the problem is that we are creatures of habit, aren't we? We're such creatures of habit. It's crazy. We absorb everything around us. We are so easily affected by the people around us, which is why they say you're the product of the 5 people around you in a lot of business talk. And it's a very true thing, which is why you should always have people, 2 or 3 people that, you know, you influence, and then maybe 2 or 3 people that influence you in your inner circle. This keeps a good balance where you're giving back to those who, you know, maybe can benefit from your advice or assistance or experience, expertise. And then there are those that you're influenced by that can motivate you to go to the next level. So it's a good idea to check in with who your inner circle is. Now, the good thing about being online is that we can pick and choose who we want to influence us. And it's basically, you know, a matter of constantly doing an analysis of your life. Am I happy? Number 1. Now, obviously, we don't expect everyone to just walk around in this, you know, sublime, you know, ignorance is bliss type of happiness. We all know that that's just not practical. It's not the case. And in fact, if that's how your life is, well, the chances are you're missing out on a whole lot. So, but on the opposite end, we shouldn't be walking around in a absolute depression all the time. We shouldn't be walking around just saying, like, my life sucks, everything sucks. That's definitely not healthy. But I can tell you one thing as a word of wisdom. Depression is an absolutely normal thing. And in fact, if you haven't gone through a period of depression in your life, even if it was temporary, I don't believe that you're awake. I believe that depression is one step on the path toward awakening. If you haven't looked around at life, it's not always a fairy tale. It's not always a Disney movie, is it? It's a horror. It's a tragedy. This is why you have comedy and tragedy in the drama, those two faces. We live in a world of duality. There's happiness and there's great heights to the happiness and the love that we can experience. But there's also very deep lows to the depression, to the horror, to the tragedy. Now, of course, you're not stuck in any one of those positions. This is the good news, is that we can absolutely find a balance. We can absolutely live in happier and happier states of mind and not be affected by the circumstances of our life as much. Obviously, it's still normal to feel a certain degree of sadness if one of your loved ones die, if you lose someone to a terrible accident. It's an absolute normal thing. You're not going to be, oh, great, when that happens. That would be ridiculous. It's absolutely normal to feel the full spectrum of emotion. The issue is attachment. It's attachment. And so this meditation helps us become non-attached to our emotions, non-attached to our thoughts, non-attached to the circumstances of life. And it helps us remember the truth. The truth is that all of this is temporary. All of this is just a mere appearance. The body is temporary. Life circumstances are temporary. Now, this is maybe good or bad, depending on your situation. If you have a really good situation, we tend to want to hold on to it. And when we lose it, we tend to become unhappy. If you have a really bad situation and it changes for the better, well, that's a good thing. But life is an ebb and flow. It's the swinging of the pendulum. So why do we want to become still? In stillness, we transcend the limitations of the active mind. The activity in the mind is the curtain, it's the filter, it's the veil, preventing us from perceiving life directly, from perceiving and experiencing life in its multidimensional form. You know, it's like we're rats in a cage sometimes. We're stuck in the body. But since we're creatures of habit, we can learn new habits to get out of that box, to get out of that attachment. And so what we're going to do here in a moment is learn how to do that. When we focus on a single point in the single-pointed mind concentration technique, we're developing a discipline for the mind. Everything is attention. Right now, when you close your eyes, you notice that, I'm just telling you my experience, everything is squeezing down right here, so I need to open up, I need to relax. The frontal lobe. Our attention is so forced right here. Your attention is synonymous with your awareness. So when I talk about move your attention, move your awareness, it's synonymous. It's the same thing I'm referring to. Consciousness is something different. Consciousness transcends even your individual awareness and your individual attention. Attention can be concentrated at a single point. Is that starting to make sense now? So because we move from concentration to consciousness, we begin first by taking our attention, disciplining it on one point, and then moving beyond it, transcending it, dissolving into. It's kind of like, imagine if you're moving. This is a great analogy. And you had to move your house. Well, wouldn't it be quite difficult if you didn't have a moving truck to collect all that stuff and not have a place to concentrate it first to then move it to the next location? It'd be very, very difficult, wouldn't it? So this is kind of what we're doing here. So we're taking all this stuff in the mind and we're putting it into the moving truck. This is the single point. We're taking our awareness, which is scattered among thoughts. The thoughts are not real. These thoughts are illusions. Everything has a relative reality. Now, of course, reality is subjective, but our attention is the subject that we apply, that we move. We move our attention to our eyes and we see. We move our attention to our ears and we hear. Sometimes we can do it simultaneously. Sometimes there's the advent of synesthesia, if I'm saying that correct. Synesthesia is when we cross, maybe we see sound or we hear colors. These are some of the experiences you may have in meditation. When your senses, when you move beyond the senses, you discover that what we are is attention. We can place attention on a body. We can place attention on thoughts. We can place attention on an external object. We can think. We can place our attention on an identity or an idea or an image in the mind. But who are we? We are the attention. We're not the ideas. The ideas are the objects. Our attention, our awareness, is the subject. And the ultimate subject, which is beyond subjectivity, is consciousness. Consciousness is like who we all are. And so consciousness is the foundation of all things, if you will. Consciousness is the essence of all things. And it's not separate from the things, the objects. The objects are modified forms of consciousness. Now again, consciousness is just a word that we're using. It's an English word that we're using to identify something that is really unidentifiable. But we can certainly experience it when we meditate, when we move beyond thought, when we take our awareness and discipline it at a certain point. This allows us to clarify, to clear the mind of the extraneous thoughts, to bring it to a fine point. Now this achieves a couple things, and we'll get meditating here in a few moments. Number one, through the mental discipline, we are strengthening our ability to concentrate. We are making our minds more efficient by concentrating on a single point. Most of the times our minds suck up all of our energy through worry, through concern, through extraneous thoughts. All this thinking is a form of an out-of-shape mind. It's a scattered mind. Our attention is scattered among all these different things, and it's easily pulled off in this direction because we don't have discipline. So by disciplining the mind, holding it on a certain point, we developed a very strong, disciplined mind, and we hold our mind in a shape. And this is no different from holding a posture in yoga, a physical posture. Your mind is just another body that you can hold in a posture. Remember, the mind takes a shape, the shape that you put it in. And if you want your mind to shine, for lack of a better rhyme, you have to make it sharp and shiny. You have to polish it. And this is done through the discipline of single-pointed mind meditation. So we're seeking to get all that crap in the house and put it in the moving van. Okay? Now, by focusing it on a particular chakra, let's say we start with the navel, we move up to the heart, and move up to the third eye in this particular technique. This, by focusing on the energy body, awakens another dimension of ourselves, a long-lost dimension of ourselves. And we use the long-lost art of feeling. We've become so numb. We become so focused on the physical. We become so sensorial. We constantly feed our senses. This is the habit that we developed. We learned this, and then we just repeat it because we're creatures of habit. So we can unlearn it, and we can relearn a new way of being, a way that taps into the reality, a way that taps into our potential. So the single-pointed mind, when we focus on the chakra, opens up the chakras. We tune in to the energy body. Now this energy body is our vehicle for multidimensional experience. Now, multidimensional experience may sound like a great thing, but it's not necessarily going to be the key to happiness in the end. Now, this might be going a little farther than what we need to go through, but you know me, I'm Mr. Tangent. When we focus on the energy body, yes, we can have new experiences. We can experience multidimensional realities. But there's still a subject-object, experience thing happening, event, occurring in space and time. And that is always going to be duality. Again, this might be going a little bit above board, but I think you can follow me here. True happiness is when we become consciousness. Now, we could say that we already are consciousness, but are we aware of that? No, we're aware that we're a name, an identity, have a history, a certain set of skills, talents, experiences, memories, abilities. And this is who we believe ourselves to be, the body, the history, our, identity. We don't go around and say, "Hi, I'm consciousness, how are you?" Although I might start doing that, just to freak people out. And, anyone? Okay, so what we're doing is we're learning through experience that we're much more than just the body, that we're much more than the senses, we're more than the identity. But you have to have experiences in those other realms. This is what mysticism is all about. You could call me a mystic. Mystics are people who, it's a spiritual path that through experience of higher dimensional realms beyond the body, we experience other worlds, other dimensions. And we come back and we give you the old report. "Oh, it was great out there. You would love it. It was awesome." But it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is the self. The problem is the ego. The problem is the fact that we still believe that we're somebody having an experience. Ultimate transcendence of the self, of the separate self, is what brings true happiness, true freedom, true enlightenment. What we consider happiness is like a very low scale. Would you rather be happy or ecstatic, blissful beyond comprehension? I don't know about you, but I would love to be blissful, ecstatic beyond comprehension. And the only way to do that is to transcend the separate self. And so this is what happens in step 5. We are going for the gold in step 5. We're seeking to dissolve the subject into the object being consciousness, initially thought of as a stage or step that we're getting to. But then if we dissolve into consciousness, if consciousness is all there is, and there's only one, we are consciousness, all there is consciousness, then there's no one to be unhappy. There's no one there. This is enlightenment. There's no more separate self. Now the truth is that all the separate self identity, this idea, this is all just an illusion of mind, creating the separation. So, a lot of words today. I'll leave you with this last bit of information. Many people claim to be meditating, but the truth is that most people are just spacing out. They're just spacing out. Meditation occurs when you enter into what are called the causal dimensions, the planes of light, beyond the astral plane. Now again, this may be getting a little too far for this talk today, but what the heck, I've already stepped way over. When we're meditating and we come out and we feel spaced out and we don't feel connected, we don't feel sharp, we don't feel clear, chances are you're spacing out into what's called the astral plane. This is the same dimension that you go to in dreams, in sleep. How many of you wake up going, yes, I'm totally refreshed and ready for life, let's go? Chances are not a whole lot of you out there. Because when you enter into the astral realm, you come back and you feel like sleepy, you feel tired, you feel spaced out. Which is why in the morning we need our shower, we need our coffee, we need to awaken, we need some food. So, how do we avoid all this? Single-pointed mind concentration. When you can hold your mind perfectly still, you're raising your frequency up to a higher dimension, higher than the astral dimension. And these are what's called the causal dimensions. These are the planes of light. And the planes of light are what border the shores of nirvana. Now, nirvana is a concept in Buddhism talked about. Nirvana would be very similar to the concept I'm talking about when we talk about consciousness. Now, you may not call it consciousness. Again, we have to use words to talk about things that are beyond concept. But in this particular practice, this is what we're aiming to do. We're moving from our physical through the astral into the planes of light. Now, of course, there are something called higher astral, lower astral planes. We want to definitely avoid these lower astral planes. Higher astral isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you can feel pretty darn good in the higher astral planes. So this is why we have a navel, heart, and third eye focus. It's the Trinity. You got the physical, astral, and causal planes. Our body is reflexive of the entire multidimensional spectrum. This is the abdomen, thorax, and the head, just like an ant. The mind, body, and spirit, or mind, body, and emotions. These three components, these three dimensions are absolutely important to focus on if you want to be whole, if you want to be complete. Neglect one at your demise. I don't know. You got to give a warning, right? Okay, so what we're doing here in the 5 steps to stillness is we're moving from concentration to consciousness. We are literally dissolving the self, dissolving the ego, dissolving the obstacles in the way that lead to happiness, which is consciousness. Obviously, this happiness is existing already. Now, happiness is sort of a state that we identify with. I am happy. Do we say I am happiness? Well, that's the problem. I am happy is a division. You got the I. Well, are you the I or are you happy? If you are happiness, the two become one. And then this is the true meaning of yoga, to join the separate self with the divine. This is the union of the divine and the separate self. This is why it's concentration, which is who we are, and consciousness, which is divine. Hopefully this is starting to make sense. And I hope your meditation is going well out there. I say all this to just give you a complete understanding of what we're doing here. You know, it's not necessarily important to understand everything at the beginning, but what is important is that you practice, because it's just a lot of words, and sometimes too many words can be distracting. So let's get to the meditation. Now, in the 5 steps to stillness, it's very important that you try really hard. It's no different from anything else in life. If you don't try really hard in the beginning, you're not going to get a lot out of it. Meaning, don't space out. Use this as an opportunity to train your mind. Use this as an opportunity to explore the feeling that we don't often do. Oftentimes we're doing other things. We're using our senses most of the time. We're thinking. This is an opportunity to do something different. To go from doing into non-doing. And which is why it's important to practice on a regular basis. Because if we don't, we'll go back to the old habits. These old habits, these tendencies, these karmas are very strong. You know? And this is why a daily discipline is important. It's got to be part of your routine. So step one in the successful meditation practice is setting up a certain time a day that you meditate every single day. For me, believe it or not, this is my morning. I'm a late night, wake up late type person. So, of course, that is what it is. It's the way my life is set up. And so part of my morning routine is I wake up, I get food, I get coffee, and I take a shower, and then I meditate every day. It's part of that routine. When I don't do it, which is seldom these days, I feel like I missed out on something, and that's a good thing to have. Once you get into a regular habit of meditating, you'll know when you don't do it. And gosh, do I have to meditate for the rest of my life, Rob? Oh, what a pain. Well, you know, do you have to shower for the rest of your life? Do you have to eat food for the rest of your life? Do you have to, you know, at least for the most of the rest of your life, work to make money? Of course, you have to work, because what happens is that when you don't work, you lose money. When you don't eat, you lose your body, you lose energy, you lose strength. When you don't shower, you're gonna offend a lot of people. It's the idea that we need to make it part of our lifestyle. Lifestyle, right? Meditation. It's just part of your routine. It's got to be part of that morning routine. In the morning, because we want to start out the day with a clear slate, a renewed energy, a high frequency. And the one thing I neglected to mention is that when you do focus on the chakras, you're raising what's called the Kundalini Energy. The Kundalini is everything. It's the energy that allows you to perceive on higher dimensional perspectives, in higher dimensional realms. It's the energy that allows you to stay in those higher dimensional realms. Most people's Kundalini is locked up, way down. Each chakra represents a stage of life. As I said, you get the physical, astral, and causal. These are real dimensions. There's beings there, just like you and me. There's all kinds of beings within the being. You know? Just as a tree has many leaves and seeds, and that seed falls and then creates a new tree and new leaves, and it's just a fractal. It's a continuous reflexive microcosm of the macrocosm. We are a universe unto ourselves. And so when we only focus on one slice of the universe, which is what most people are brought up to do, the physical body, you're missing out on the full spectrum. You know? So, this is what we look for. We look to enrich our lives with a more realistic experience. I want to know the truth. I want to know what's real. I want to experience the full spectrum. I don't want to be limited. I'm humble enough to accept where I'm at right now, but eager enough to know that there's more, and that I will make whatever steps are necessary to get to that point. But it has to come from a desire to want more. It has to come from a realistic satisfaction with life as we've been given it. Otherwise, you're probably not going to last. And this is why I say depression is a normal, natural state to move through in the process of spiritual awakening. Because if you don't, you really haven't, if you haven't gone through a period of depression, even if it's just a short one, even if it's just for a short period of time, then you haven't really looked at life. You haven't really gone, huh, wow, yeah, I could totally understand. I totally get it. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get into the meditation, my friends. Thank you for being patient and listening to me rant and rave and ramble on, because you know I can sit here all day and talk. So hopefully you learned something. And it is time to meditate. So here we go. The 5 steps to stillness is a process of moving from concentration to consciousness. We begin by warming up our ability to concentrate by using our most dominant sense, which is our eyes. We're really good at looking. And hopefully by now you've printed off one of these yantras. These are available at the top of the group. If you're watching this video later, go ahead and hit pause right now. You're back. Well, I didn't tell you what to do. Hit pause and then download and print out the yantra. It's available in the announcements section. Or you can just message me if you need one. So these are a great way to start the day and just focus on that dot. If you only had 5 minutes to meditate, I would just look at the yantra for 5 minutes, because it's that powerful. Because it takes everything, your visual awareness, and you focus on one particular dot right in the center. This is great because it allows you very easily to know when you're not focusing on the dot. Sometimes the chakras can be a little more challenging to feel in the beginning. But the yantra gives us something concrete that we can focus on easily. So, after step 1 of focusing on the yantra, we're going to move into focusing on the chakras, in which we feel those chakras. With the single pointed mind concentration, we're bringing our attention, our awareness to those points, and we're feeling the energy in that spot. Dig deep, feel, probe. Where is it? Find it. You have to explore a little bit with your feelings. You'll get good at this as you practice. If it's a new thing, and if it's difficult, don't worry. You get better. You get better. You develop this ability to feel, to sense energy. And then we move into step 5. Now, step 5 is a process of letting go. No more concentration. Step 5 is really where meditation begins, which is the process of not doing. No concentration, no focus, no self. And if we did a good job in the previous steps, step 5 should just take care of itself. In that you are already pretty still, and it's just a process of letting go and surrendering to that stillness. And of course, stillness is also synonymous with consciousness. Stillness is the highest frequency. Okay, here we go. With our back straight, make sure you keep a good posture. Whether you're sitting in a chair or seated on the ground, take a deep breath and relax. It's important to continually throughout the meditation to let go of the tension that you feel physically and energetically. So with a good posture, begin by focusing on the central dot of that yantra. If you don't yet have a yantra, you can just listen to the music or focus on the image in the video. With a laser-like focus, hold your gaze steadfast and steadily on that central dot. When your gaze or attention wanders to whatever it will wander to, thoughts, images, daydreaming, quickly bring it back and hold it as long as you can on that central dot. This is the practice for step 1. Here we go. Now we move to step 2. Gently close the eyes. First, beginning with the navel chakra. Take the tip of your finger and place it about an inch or two below the belly button. Press gently into that spot on your body. Remember to breathe naturally throughout the entire meditation, but keep your focus remaining on the chakras. What we want to do is feel that spot. Not think, not visualize, but feel. You will develop this ability with practice. Right now, you can feel physically the finger touching that area. Once you've locked onto that feeling, remove the finger and continue to hold your attention on feeling that area. Try hard to focus and hold still on feeling the navel chakra. Don't let yourself space out. Challenge yourself to the exclusion of all else. Hold on that chakra. Now move your attention up to the heart chakra in the center of the chest. Place the fingertips in the center of the chest and press lightly. Release any energetic or muscular tension that you have around that area. Feel the gentle imprint of your fingertips in the center of your chest. Lock onto that feeling. Remain still as we get deeper and deeper into stillness. When your mind wanders, just bring it back to feeling the heart chakra. Try to hold it there. Don't let your mind wander. Try to feel the energy at the heart chakra, feeling of love, bliss, joy, happiness. Breathe naturally, but keep still and feel that spot. Now move your attention up to the third eye chakra. Place the fingertips between the eyebrows and slightly above. Press gently into the forehead. Focus on the feeling of the fingertip pressing into the forehead. Lock on with your attention on feeling that spot. We're becoming more and more energy, less solid. Remove the finger and continue to feel that spot. Remain still. Hold only the feeling of the third eye in your attention. Now, let go. Let go into the stillness, into the light. Don't cling to anything. Release all tension and all control. Be still. Very nice. Now, come on back to the body. How y'all feeling out there? Works every time. It's a process you can rely on, which is why I like this technique. Sure, there are days when it's more challenging than others, it seems. But it's when we overcome the challenge that we grow. It's when we push ourselves beyond where we've been before that we grow, that we get better. We become stronger. Our ability to ward off negativity becomes effortless. Because we ourselves are vibrating at a higher frequency, we simply repel negativity. You don't get pulled down by it quite so easily, because your energy's up. Now, of course, within this 20-minute period, we're kind of moving through each step in a rapid succession. I like to do this meditation for at least 30 minutes when I'm meditating on my own, and I like to do it with silence. I use an app that helps to time each step, so I don't necessarily need to use the music, because the music can kind of be distracting at the beginning. So when we meditate to silence and I use the app, there's just a bell that goes off every 5 minutes or so, however long you want to program it for, that prompts you to the next step. And in that way, you're confronted with the silence. Silence and stillness is the true essence of meditation. Now, sometimes the music can be helpful in that it creates a mood that we can kind of feel, and it evokes a certain emotional response that is inspiring. And I do like to meditate specifically to music with single-pointed mind hearing or listening, a listening meditation where I'm just focusing on the music. The music is all there is. I'm dissolving into the music. There's no me. See, oftentimes we focus on ourselves way too much, and this is the cause of our unhappiness. We're caught up in our mind, we're caught up in our thoughts. It's all self-reflective, me in juxtaposed to whatever it is. And this is what we want to get out of. When we sit to meditate, it's good to forget about yourself. Just become the awareness.